Congrats, America. We have turned the Honda Civic into a luxury.
This feels like an aftermarket integration.
What is this? This feels like it belongs in a Mitsubishi. What the frick, Audi?
The newest car is always the best. If you believe that the auto industry has done a pretty good job brainwashing you, they are always promising that new cars come with more advanced technology, last longer, and are better in every way, and you are supposed to drain your savings, maybe even go into debt just to buy one, and what do you get? The car breaks down in the first month. It is packed with features you never needed, while the real value they add is zero. Today, join me as we look at why more and more Americans are refusing to buy new cars in a market that really comes down to this high prices, low features. You will see how new car prices have hit record highs while quality and practical value keep sliding downhill. You will also understand why the 1990s and early 2000s are often seen as the golden age of cars that were actually good, and why today's auto industry is starting to work more and more like the phone industry. Do not miss this video because the car you buy today is only the beginning. The scarier part is that our children may grow up in an America where owning a normal car has become a privilege.
I think for me, a new car is kind of off the table. Maybe more in the future, a new car can be kind of like an aspirational purchase.
New cars are becoming a privilege for the rich. A car used to be the beginning of the American dream. Before people could buy a house, they needed a car to get to work, find a better job, take their kids to school, and build a life of their own. But what if I told you the price of a new car is now completely out of reach for a lot of ordinary Americans? And if car prices seem like they are rising so fast they make your head spin, no, you are not imagining it. You are not the only one looking at a completely ordinary car and wondering, when did this become a luxury item?
The average price of a new car is now close to $50,000, and industry analysts say it's caused about 1 million new car buyers to drop out of the market.
The average price of a new car is now closing in on $50,000 USD, $50,000. I honestly do not know when we started treating that as a normal price for a normal car. This is not the price of a Ferrari, it is not a collector car, and it is not some rich person's weekend toy. That is the average price of a new car transaction, and the word average is exactly what should worry us. Because we are not talking about a few wildly overpriced models anymore. The entire market has been pushed into a whole new price range. A normal car now requires an income that is anything but normal. Since 2020, about 1 million potential buyers have left the new car market. And honestly, when about 1 million people get pushed out, I stop believing this is just a story about a few people making bad financial choices. Maybe the market itself has stopped serving them. Then you look at this Chevrolet Silverado.
I just saw a salesman crying in one of his videos, asking why no one's wanting to buy these new trucks nowadays. They're just plain simple. These trucks are just too expensive. This is a base model pickup truck.
This is just a basic pickup truck, regular cab 2-wheel drive and a 2.7-liter 4-cylinder engine. He calls it a basic model. You might be shocked when you hear the price. Around $60,000 USD, $60,000 for a basic pickup truck. Good lord. Honestly, at that price, calling it basic almost sounds like a joke. It is not a limited edition. It is not a millionaire's weekend toy. A pickup truck is supposed to be a work tool. It is meant to carry equipment, haul loads, and help its owner make a living. Of course, I know what automakers are going to say. They will tell us $50,000 or $60,000 USD is the price of progress. New cars are smarter, safer, and loaded with more technology. And at first, that sounds reasonable. But I only buy that explanation if the technology actually makes the car better for the person paying for it. And sadly, that is not what is happening. So let us expose the technology lie, the excuse automakers use to push car prices to record highs. You are paying for technology you never wanted. I do not think new cars are short on technology. I think they have way too much of the wrong technology in the wrong places. Automakers can keep adding screens, sensors, and buttons that look like they came from the future. But if an expensive car still leaves out something basic the owner needs every day, that is not progress. That is a bad set of priorities being sold at a very high price. And the Audi e-tron in this video is a perfect example of what I mean.
Within the first 10 seconds, already hating that, there's no shade cover whatsoever. The Audi e-tronic. This is currently for sale for $68,000. This feels like an aftermarket integration.
What is this? This feels like it belongs in a Mitsubishi. What the frick, Audi?
The man gets into the car, looks around, and the first thing that bothers him is not the engine, the range, or the performance. It is the fact that the car does not even have a sunshade. Meanwhile, the cabin is packed with screens and strange controls that make him blurt out, "What is this?" The problem is not that the car lacks equipment. It has more than enough. but the thing the driver needs right away is missing, and the things that are there leave him wondering what they are even supposed to do. To me, that is exactly what is wrong with a lot of new cars today. Too much stuff designed to impress you, and not enough designed to actually help you. Do not get me wrong, I am not against technology. Backup cameras, blind spot warnings, and genuinely useful safety systems can obviously make a car better. The problem starts when the technology stops working for the driver and the driver has to start working for the technology. A physical button lets you use it without taking your eyes off the road. A sunshade does one job and it does that job the moment you need it. A screen only deserves to be there if it makes things faster, not if it forces the driver to learn another system. The auto industry is putting a higher price on things that are easy to show off than on things that are easy to use, and buyers are the ones paying for that choice. But a frustrating interface is not even the part that bothers me most. Look at how far automakers can take this.
Volkswagen, for example, turned heads recently. They announced that they would start making premium features that you can only use if you pay a subscription. This includes things like locking you out of a car's maximum horsepower unless you pay a subscription fee. And look, don't blame them entirely for this either. This has been going on for a long while in the auto industry. Even back in 2022, Toyota, BMW, GM, they were working on subscriptions for basic car features.
You bought the car. The hardware may already be sitting right there inside it, but in some cases, the manufacturer can still lock the feature with software and make you pay extra or keep a subscription active just to use it. I understand paying for a part that was never installed, but if that part is already inside the car I just bought and it stays locked until I pay more, I do not call that an upgrade. And this is where you realize buyers are not just paying once. You pay the first time when you buy the car because all those screens, sensors, modules, and software help drive the price up. You pay a second time by giving up control because some features still depend on an account, an app, a server, or another ongoing fee. And the third payment may come when all that complicated technology needs to be repaired. And that is when an uncomfortable question starts creeping into my mind. If a car needs dozens of modules, sensors, screens, and layers of software to do things that used to be simple, are we paying more just to buy more things that can break? I can accept an expensive car if that price buys me peace of mind. But if the car costs more, is more complicated, and still starts breaking after just a few weeks or months, what is left of the excuse for that price? Car prices are sky high, but the quality is no longer reliable. I can understand a 10-year-old car suddenly breaking down, but a brand new car already sitting on a tow truck, no. That is not just bad luck. That is the whole reason people buy new cars, and now even that is disappearing. Just look at these two owners and you will see how quickly that sense of security can vanish.
We recently bought a new Jeep Grand Cherokee, and within 6 weeks of owning it, we had our first major mechanical breakdown. After leaving the car in Arizona for 3 weeks to get repaired while we traveled all the way to Florida, we finally got her back, or so we thought. This whole incident started the day we were supposed to leave Arizona. We ended up having to get the car towed to the nearest dealership in Flagstaff. The rear air suspension failed and the car was...
Chris and Hillary had owned their 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee 4X for about 6 weeks when the rear air suspension failed. The vehicle was towed to the dealership, repaired, and returned. 2 days later, it broke down again. Even though the repair was covered under warranty, the couple said they still had to spend around $4,000 USD out of pocket on transportation and rental cars.
So I texted the salesman that sold me the car. This is basically the entire conversation. I mean, like, this is messed up.
Alex Jokic's 2025 GMC Sierra had only gone about 100 miles. 100 miles. Some people have not even filled the gas tank a second time by then, but the GMC's dashboard was already showing warnings flashing lights and the truck was struggling to start. When Alex said he did not want to keep it anymore, the answer was simple: the deal was done. Instead of getting a different vehicle, he had to call a tow truck, take it to the dealership, and start the whole diagnosis and warranty process. Maybe you do not care about Jeep or GMC, but do not be too quick to think this is somebody else's problem. Anyone buying a new car is trusting that vehicle with their job, their children's school schedule, and their entire family's plans. When the car stops moving, your life starts getting stuck right along with it. You can lose a day of work, an appointment gets canceled, a family trip turns into hours on the phone with the dealership, and while all of that is happening, the monthly payment still shows up right on time. Of course, the usual answer is going to be, the car is under warranty. That is true. But a warranty does not fix everything. It may pay for parts and labor. It does not give you back the workday you lost, the canceled trip, the rental car money, the towing costs, or the hours you spent calling around just to find out where your car was. That is why early breakdowns destroy the whole logic of buying a new car. When you buy used, you know you are taking on more risk in exchange for a lower price. Buying new is supposed to be the opposite. You pay a lot more to avoid those exact risks. You are buying predictability. You want the first few years without worrying about a major repair bill, without listening for every strange noise, without wondering whether the car will start tomorrow morning. A new car does not have to be absolutely perfect, but it should be more reliable than the fear the buyer is trying to avoid. If you still end up living with the same anxiety that comes with an old car, what exactly did all that extra money buy? Technology can make a car smarter. But when every system depends on every other system, one failure can take away your ability to use the whole vehicle. I am not going to use these two videos to claim every new car is going to break down. Obviously, that is not true. But when a product costs $50,000 or $60,000 USD, even one failure that happens way too soon is enough to make the owner question the entire deal. And I can almost hear people saying that is exactly why I'm keeping my old car. But are old cars really more reliable, or are we only looking at the ones that survived and forgetting all the bad ones that disappeared a long time ago? Maybe car reliability has never improved in a straight line. There have been periods when cars got much better, but there have also been times when new technology solved one problem and created three more. And that is what we need to look at next: why some cars from the late 1990s and early 2000s found a balance that a lot of modern cars seem to be losing. The golden age the auto industry left behind. I have heard a lot of people say older cars ran better than modern ones. They were simpler, ran better, lasted longer, broke down less, and were easier to fix. But is that just nostalgia making the past look better than it really was? I do not want to answer that with feelings or a few nostalgic stories. I want to explain it with actual logic, because when someone says this car is better, they could be talking about three completely different things. Reliability is whether the car works consistently every day. Durability is how long the important parts can last before they need major repairs. Repairability is whether the owner can find the problem, replace the right part, and get the car back on the road at a reasonable cost. Those three things are connected, but they are not the same. A car can run perfectly for the first 8 years. But in year 9, one electronic module can stop working and create a repair bill so large that the owner starts wondering whether the car is even worth keeping. On the other hand, an older car may need more regular attention. It might leak a little oil, need a new sensor, or need an old rubber part replaced. But if each part can be removed and replaced separately at a reasonable price, the owner can still keep that car on the road for many more years. So a car does not truly last just because the engine still turns over. It lasts when the entire car is still worth fixing. And in my opinion, that is exactly why cars from the late 1990s through the early 2000s get talked about so much. That was a time when a lot of important technology had finally matured. Electronic fuel injection had become more stable. Electronic ignition had become more reliable. Material quality, corrosion resistance, and manufacturing precision had all improved. Engines could go a very long distance when properly maintained. Electronic diagnostics had also arrived, making it easier to figure out what was wrong. But cars had not yet been built entirely around software. The main functions were still controlled by physical buttons and switches. Many parts could still be replaced one at a time. A problem with a comfort feature usually did not make the whole car unusable. Repairs were not yet tied so deeply to account servers or proprietary manufacturer software. Engines were not being asked to do too many things at once either. A lot of models used designs that had been tested for years instead of forcing more and more power out of smaller and smaller engines. I am not calling it a perfect era, but a lot of cars back then had enough technology to get rid of most of the problems from older generations without having so much technology that even a simple function needed its own computer. It was a rare balance, modern enough to be reliable, but still simple enough to understand, repair, and keep for a long time. Modern cars face a completely different challenge. A new car does not just have to run well, it also has to meet stricter emissions standards, use less fuel, protect people, better in a crash, make more power, run more quietly, stay more connected, and offer more driver assistance features. It needs screens, apps, cameras, sensors, radar software updates, and a long list of systems all working at the same time. Every new solution usually brings another sensor, another wire, another control module, or another layer of software. Every added part can help the car do more, but it also makes the whole system harder to understand, harder to repair, and more dependent on the manufacturer's process. That does not necessarily mean the engineering is bad. Sometimes it is simply what happens when a product is forced to serve too many priorities at once. So instead of asking whether old cars or new cars are better, I think we should ask a more practical question: which car will still be useful after 15 or 20 years? A car worth keeping for a long time needs technology that has already matured. When one part fails, it should not take a long list of other functions down with it. The broken part should be replaceable on its own. Replacement parts should still be easy to find. Diagnosis should not be completely completely locked inside the dealership system, and most importantly, repair costs should not exceed the value of the car too early. I do not need a car that never breaks. That car does not exist. I need a car that breaks in a way I can understand, can be repaired at a price I can afford, and keeps working after the repair. That is what durability really means to someone who plans to own a car for a long time. But modern cars are bringing along an even bigger change. They no longer age only like machines. They also age like electronic devices. In other words, the auto industry is starting to treat cars like phones. A car with the life cycle of a phone. I do not want a 50,000 USD car to have the life cycle of an 800 USD phone. But that is exactly where the auto industry is heading. Buying a car today sometimes no longer feels like buying a complete product. It feels like buying access to a system the manufacturer continues to control after you have already paid for it. You bought the car, you have the keys, you are responsible for the loan, the insurance, and every repair bill. So why does the car still need an account, an app, a server, and permission from a company just to keep working the way it is supposed to? The answer is the phone industry's business model. Technology companies do not just make money when they sell the device. They also make money from apps, storage services, subscriptions, data, and the constant replacement cycle. Selling the phone is only the beginning. The real revenue keeps coming long after the product has left the store. And the auto industry looked at that model and saw an opportunity that was just too good to pass up. Instead of making money only once when they sell the car, they can keep making money the entire time you own it. A connectivity package here, a remote control service there, a feature that needs to be renewed, an app that requires you to sign in. A function already built into the car that only works while the account stays active. For the company, that is a fantastic business model. For the buyer, it can turn ownership into a bill that never ends. The problem is that phones and cars are not the same kind of product. A phone can be replaced after a few years. It costs far less. You might get annoyed when an app stops supporting it, but that phone usually does not decide whether you can get to work tomorrow morning. A car is different. It is a major asset. It is tied to your job, your family, and your ability to get around every day. Buyers do not expect to use it for 2 or 3 years and throw it away. They expect it to last 15 or 20 years, sometimes longer. So when an old phone stops receiving updates, that is annoying. But when a car loses functions because a server shuts down, an app is no longer compatible, or the manufacturer ends support, that is no longer a minor inconvenience. The value of an asset worth tens of thousands of dollars is being reduced, even though the hardware still works. The engine still starts, the transmission still works, the body is still in good shape, but the app is dead, the online service is gone, the navigation system no longer updates. Some features stop responding because they are waiting for a connection to a server that no longer exists. Of course, software updates are not always bad, but there have to be limits. Real ownership has to mean something. Core functions should belong to the buyer. A feature that has already been paid for should keep working when the car is sold to someone else. The car should still be usable even after online services end. And a company ending support should not be allowed to turn a perfectly good vehicle into something close to useless. But if this model hurts buyers so much, why do automakers keep chasing it? The answer is simple: because it still makes money. Our children and grandchildren may not be able to afford cars. I do not think car prices are out of control. I think they are working exactly the way a business model works when ordinary buyers matter less and less. Automakers know Americans are angry. They see buyers keeping old cars longer. They see families walk into dealerships and walk right back out, and they know an ordinary car is slowly moving beyond what an ordinary family can afford. But here is the scary part: knowing the problem exists does not mean they have a reason to fix it, especially when the model creating that problem is still making very good money. CBS once pointed out this contradiction. Automakers can sell fewer cars and still make strong profits because the vehicles they do sell keep getting larger, more expensive, and more profitable. Let us be honest, if one expensive SUV makes as much profit as 2 affordable cars, which one do you think the company is going to prioritize? I do not believe basic cars disappeared because automakers forgot how to build them. I think they disappeared because on a profit sheet they are not as attractive as pickup trucks, SUVs, and higher trim models. People who need affordable cars still exist. They are just no longer the customers getting priority. And to me, the biggest contradiction involves people who keep their cars for a long time. Someone who buys a car, takes good care of it, and keeps it for 20 years is proof that the company built a good product. But in terms of revenue, that person only creates one sale in 2 decades. Someone who trades cars every 3 years creates a new contract, a new loan, new accessories, a new protection plan, and another used car for the dealership to sell. The auto industry says it wants loyalty, but this model actually rewards customers for coming back as soon as possible. So is the car being designed for year 3 or year 15? And the car is only one bill in a whole stack waiting every month. Housing costs more, insurance costs more, food utilities and healthcare all take a bigger piece of your income. None of those expenses is small enough to ignore, but none of them can simply be cut out either. When every required expense rises at the same time, the first thing to disappear is your safety cushion. Savings shrink. Emergency funds disappear, home repairs get delayed, retirement plans get pushed back, and the ability to help your children start lives of their own gets smaller too. What worries me is not just that our children and grandchildren will have a harder time buying their first car. I worry that their first car will wipe out the money they should have used to move out of their parents' home, build an emergency fund, or save for their first house. And here's the question I think we need to seriously debate: can an economy still claim to serve the middle class when cars, housing, and basic bills are all priced as if everyone's income has doubled? Cars and houses, they seem like the two biggest milestones in the ideal life promised by the American dream we have chased for so many years. But today, new cars are slowly moving out of reach for ordinary Americans, and for a lot of young people, owning a home is starting to feel almost impossible. It is sad, but I'm afraid this is not over. Money keeps flowing into wallets that are already very full, while workers, ordinary families, and the generations coming after us carry the greatest damage. What do you think about this? Is this just a difficult period, or are we watching a permanent change in the way the American dream is divided up? Share your thoughts in the comments. I cannot change an entire country or control an entire industry, but at the very least, I will be here reading every thought you share. And do not forget to subscribe to the channel if you feel like this is a place where you can speak honestly.